Oh, well, I thought maybe I could make myself look a little bit better. But no. Hi. Hi, everyone. So I am going to share this with others. So you I don't know if you were if you could hear me, but here I am. Here I am, everybody. Yeah. I probably won't have anybody because I don't have a really consistent viewership on YouTube. Here's my laundry. I don't have a consistent viewership on YouTube. I do not. And where's my headphones so that I can minimize the noise? I wasn't really that ready, was I? So it's December. It's December 5th, and a little fuzz that I had there. It's December 5th. Are we going to do with ourselves? I am in Southern California. I'm very fortunate to be here. I don't always think that I have a love-hate relationship with the Los Angeles area, but it's also probably the traffic. You just can't go to certain places any old time. You have to plan things, and that was the case in Atlanta also. Here we go. Of course, the weather is the best part about it. Um, we've actually had it feels like a proper winter even in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that means in the low 50s at night and, maybe mid 60s during the day. I think today is a high of 59 now. It doesn't even seem possible because the sun is shining. You get that good vitamin D. But yeah, I'm so tired of my videos being muted. It'll get muted right in the middle of a live episode, and then the next 10 to 15 minutes, if nobody lets me know in the comments, I'll just be talking totally muted, which obviously is a waste of everyone's time. And so I just decided I would go on YouTube. Now, I've never done YouTube from my phone before, so like a mobile live video. I have, of course, done it almost every morning on Facebook. But we've had a lot of rain in the last week. We also had quite a bit of rain in November. And I am just so happy about that because, we had some pretty bad fires in the fall of 2018, summer and fall of 2018. And now it was really serious. It's, of course, no preparation, no talk of, much preparation or enforcement of brush clearing, just panic, which is, inspires a lot of confidence in our public safety system, right? So getting that rain is so important. Of course, if they really wanted to, they could see the clouds like they did in the late 70s. The authorities, looks like they're in the air a lot, up in the air, doing a lot of things up there. The whole sky is streaked today. But in the late 70s, we had flooding and we had a lot of rain, and apparently they learned their lesson. But let's just say that we could be doing a lot better job at fire prevention as well as just managing our fires here. So, but as is the case with almost everything these days, just, you know, tried and true principles of that have been tried and tested for many decades and centuries are somehow not being considered, especially by the people running things right now. People like to talk about energy independence. Energy independence is a great thing, but it's more than energy independence. It's basically making smart business decisions about energy use, which is the driver of life. It's not just about people getting rich. Um, the kind of mix of power that we have right now of energy is is reliant on fossil fuels, and it's such a massive daily amount too. It's just a massive amount per day that is used, and I'm sure there are a lot of well, I know there are a lot of measures that are being taken that are actually, they're like, okay, by 2030, 2035, I don't even know, you know, instead of realizing it's possible. And so this puts a great burden on the system, which is already strapped and taxed by corruption. Yes, we, who knew, right? I mean, there was a time, okay, before this, and justice was served. I don't think justice was served as much as it needed to be, but people did, um, they were held accountable for their crimes. I'm thinking about, I guess, Michael Milken, although he came out, smelling like a rose now, or the junk bonds scandal, or the SNL scandal. Remember, savings and loan scandal. That was when I was a kid, and I don't really even know exactly what that was about. And then, of course, you have Enron, and then you had all the fallout from Anderson Consulting, and all the companies that did the accounting for Enron and other firms. Hi, whoever that is. Feel free to comment on the chat. I can't really see. Let's see, live chat. I want to see this. There we go. Welcome to live chat. Okay, so whoever is, oh, somebody was on, but they're not on anymore. So it is December 5th, and I am tired of going live on Facebook and being muted. I'm not even sure if I can mention. I'm pretty sure on YouTube I can mention, the words of the biggest scandals right now and not get taken offline, but it's possible. I guess I'll just have to test it. I mean, this is why I didn't want to go on Facebook this morning, because I want to talk about the whole Twitter files release that happened on Saturday, and I'm pretty sure that I would be immediately ended on Facebook, because on Friday I mentioned the fashion house Balenciaga, which has all of a sudden become like such a big brand that it's everywhere. It's like almost, I mean, it has really risen, probably due to Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, um, being paid millions and millions to wear their creations. And now we're seeing that it's blowing up in their faces, except for the fact that mainstream media and social media are totally suppressing what happened. So I don't know. It seems like everybody is probably pretty aware of it, but to just summarize, it all started when their winter campaign included children, and if you looked in the photographs where the children were, they were in like a home type setting, whether it was a living room or a children's bedroom. There were just really strange items that really didn't belong in the same frame, in the same picture with children. And then people started digging deeper and noticing that there were strategically placed coffee table books that showed very. Oh, look at that! I had some trouble. Well, I'm still live. Thank you. But so a lot of citizen, I guess you'd say, social media influencers were especially the kind that are, parents who are not happy with the way things are going in the public schools anyway, and in the culture. Um, Getting on and really posting about, especially on Instagram is where I saw it, about this Balenciaga scandal. One Instagram influencer, Natalie Denise, so at NATLYDENISE. She really, that's where I learned about it. And people say, well, why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because it's very similar to some of the art we've seen on the walls of certain politicians, people in Washington, D.C. I happened to see the art of Tony Podesta, who is the brother of John Podesta, who is Hillary Clinton's longtime campaign manager, or over the years. And Tony Podesta's art is it's extremely disturbing. And the way that I was able to see that several years ago was literally in an interior design magazine for local Washington D.C. Like, oh, the politician, meet Tony Podesta and his Tony, and his well-appointed home in Georgetown. And then you go in, you look at the pictures, and you're like, why is he smiling? Like, well, his centerpiece work of art is called the Arch of Hysteria, or the Arch of Hysteria, and it is basically a sculpture hanging in the center of the townhome, um, and it takes up the whole, and it's basically. I hope this is supposed to be. I just got to be careful what I say. It's based on the positioning of someone involved in. I mean, someone who was a victim of. I guess I won't say his name. The biggest, one of the biggest, serial killers of our time, who lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's the art that Tony Podesta has in his home, like it's some great thing. And anyway, nobody's really talking about this anymore. That cloud is huge. We're not hearing about this. And then, of course, the celebrities that have been wearing the creations by Balenciaga, um, they're not really saying much, you know, and they just want the whole thing to go away. But it's a rabbit hole that really shouldn't be ignored, you know. And I would say more, but I think I'll just probably have to write something on Substack about it. So let's move on to the Twitter files. So, you know, the New York Times has been churning out fake news about Elon Musk. You know, on Saturday, right as Elon Musk, as promised, was revealing internal communications among Twitter management during the 2020 election period, right before the election, actually, when the Hunter Biden laptop story came out. So Elon Musk he promised to release the internal emails and communications. Hi, whoever that is, give me a comment if you want. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. All messages are visible. Okay, well, please comment. And so, one of my favorite writers, Matt Taibbi, who I've been following since the old days of the Iraq War, he used to be a regular on Bill Maher. And Matt Taibbi was a regular contributor to Rolling Stone as well. But now he was basically the one that was live tweeting about the Twitter communications. And so this is this is journalism at its finest, okay? This is what journalists hope for, is the opportunity to get a look at something that was meant to stay hidden. But you think that a lot of journalists, especially the successful ones, would be really excited about it. But no. They're way too invested in the establishment, and they only saw Matt Taibbi as some sort of a betrayer of them, when really, by not supporting the release of these communications, they are the enemy. And you say, why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant. The Hunter Biden laptop story is relevant still, and was relevant in October 2020, because it involved influence peddling with the vice president Joe Biden under Obama, and then when Trump was in office, there was still influence peddling going on in China, Russia, Ukraine, and I think that, and then in the United States too, with Hunter Biden and his buddies. Somebody I know, who shall remain nameless, was saying, "Oh, well, what's the big deal about that laptop? Is there anything else besides dick pics?" So that's, that right there is a result of the mainstream media, corporate media, whatever you want to call it, completely burying the story that was already a thing in 2019. So, I mean, if you're not familiar with it, basically, sometime in 2018 or 2019, uh, Joe Biden's son, Hunter, brought his laptop I guess it was a MacBook, into a repair company, an Apple repair company, or I mean, I don't know if he was affiliated, but he did a lot of Macintosh computers in Wilmington, Delaware. Okay, the capital of Delaware. And the guy who ran the shop, his name is John Paul MacIsaac, and he's a Scottish American. He likes to wear his cap when he's doing interviews. But anyway, the laptop stayed and stayed and stayed at the shop, and I believe it was already repaired. At which point, this guy, John Paul MacIsaac, became concerned about it, because I guess he had come across some disturbing material. So we're talking, everything ranging from, it goes beyond just dick pics, okay? It just things that might imply, some criminal activity, as well as emails um, showing a pattern of influence peddling and offering access to the big guy, which is Joe Biden, by his son Robert Hunter Biden and his brother Jim Biden. And so this came out before the 2020 election, and of course I remember the very day that it was the New York Post came out with the article in October, and I was thinking to myself, wow, I feel sorry for Hunter Biden, because it showed there were recordings of him talking to, I don't know who he was talking to. He was talking about his business partner in China, who was a major executive in the Chinese military complex, their military technology companies. And so I remember being on a walk and thinking to myself, wow, I actually feel sorry for Hunter, because it seems like he's just on this roller coaster of of hustling, doing the hustle with his dad's position. And from the emails, it seemed that that was actually his task to bring money in for the family, the entire family, and always 10% for the big guy, right? Are talking about someone who's supposed to be they're running for president, and they're supposed to be dealing with China, the leadership of the Communist Party, and this person's son is in business with one of the leaders in the Communist Party, because all businesses and military have to be members of the party. And and then the worst part was that the email said 10% for the big guy, and that is universally seen as a reference to Joe Biden. And so then I was feeling sorry for Hunter Biden, and I was thinking, well, I mean, I'm sure he started out in life with good intentions, and it's just really sad to see what can happen with fame and fortune and unaccount, basically being unaccountable and being above the law, as we saw also with him having a firearm and falsifying his background check form to and saying he was not, an, a drug addict. You have to say, if you're on drugs, and what else? I remember what else was disqualifying. Something was disqualifying when he filled out that form for a firearm, and then ended up throwing the firearm in a dumpster somewhere on a road trip. And so, when I got back from my hike on the day that that came out, and it was an article in the New York Post. Okay, Miranda Devine, she's been covering the story for many years, and she came out with her bombshell article. Well, did they treat it like a bombshell, like the quote bombshells about Trump? Oh, we have a note from, we have a note here that says that Trump colluded with Russia. Whee! Like Joy Behar. Did they? Did they do that? Did they put it on blast on The View about this story? No, they didn't. And obviously, everybody knows that's because at all costs, the political and media establishment wanted to make sure that Donald Trump did not have a second term, and they did not care how they did it. And that's been documented in Time magazine, where a lot of these players were bragging about it, including the writer of the article in Time magazine. I mean, these times right now they will be looked upon, I believe, in retrospect, as the worst times for real journalism. And all I can say is we couldn't get any lower. I don't, unless they were jailing us, the alternative journalists. But they're censoring us already, and for to be in the United States and have that happening is it's very upsetting. But in any case, just think about how Miranda Devine felt. What happened was Twitter, I don't know how, I was very quickly took the story down off of the New York Post Twitter account, deleted the tweet, and told them that they would reinstate. No, they didn't delete it. I think they suspended the New York Post account and told the New York Post that they would reinstate them if they would just delete the tweet. And now I don't know if they ever deleted the tweet, but also the press secretary for Trump, Kayleigh McEnany, her Twitter account was frozen. And now we're seeing the internal communications behind the scenes of these content moderation managers, as well as the top Twitter people, as well as their communications with the government, with Congress, members of Congress, and their attempt to find a justification for removing that so quickly. I mean, how obvious does it have to get before we realize something is rotten in the United States? How obvious does it have to get? I don't know. I mean, because I know people who say to themselves, well, we don't want a racist in the White House. But the problem is you are listening to the information systems saying that this person is racist. Being an abrasive and combative character does not mean you are a racist, okay? And I've argued this, I don't really have the patience to argue this with anyone, with people who still seem to they're like so deep in the matrix that they can't even sort themselves out and see that Donald Trump is a huge friend to Israel. He has never been anti-Semitic, not ever, and that associating him with people who are unbalanced, like now Kanye, and the ignorance of Kanye's friends that he brought, um, to me, it's just an obvious attempt to smear him once again with the same type of rhetoric that brought us Charlottesville. Charlottesville, in my mind, was a totally manufactured event. Leading up to that Charlottesville Unite the Right March on August 15th, 2017, there were a lot of clashes around the country, honestly. But I just remember quite a few in Virginia because that's where a lot of the Confederate monuments are located. And so there were a lot of internet fueled meetups of um, really militant people on both sides of this debate. There were, the Confederate Army of the South, or these kind of neo Confederate organizations. They dress up in these uniforms, and then there were neo Nazis who have been around forever, total crackpots, and but they take themselves very seriously. I've been covering these kinds of people since the late '90s. They're just fringe. They're fringe, and yeah, they do try to get recruits, but with a corrupt media and a corrupt government, they get easy recruits because young people who might be very impressionable, and the American Army walked into those camps, those quote work camps, right? The concentration camps run by the Third Reich, and saw, oh hi, thank you for the thumbs up, and saw piles of bodies, some still living, some dead. The smell was overwhelming. There is video footage of this. And yet, I actually met someone once in real life who thought that the camps were just, they were just work camps. And, um, you know, some people died because it was cold that winter. It's just ridiculous. Just absolutely, oh, okay, so wait, the Holocaust didn't happen, so the Jewish people weren't forced to wear a yellow star? Oh, so Jewish people weren't forced to move into certain designated areas called the ghettos? Oh, so Jewish people were not then rounded up on camera, and if they didn't go into the train cars, they would be shot dead in front of everyone. So I am so tired of all this, but there are impressionable people who listen to this kind of thing, and for some reason they are attracted to it. And I think that this whole um, not obsession, but the whole contemplation of our recent past, the century that came before, where we had to fight over in Europe to defeat this enemy. We obviously don't know everything about it, but that doesn't mean we have to abandon all sense of, fact gathering. So back to Charlottesville, there had been leading up to Charlottesville, probably for a few years, maybe starting in, remember when Nikki Haley in South Carolina, she changed the flag from the Confederate symbol, and there were a lot of different things that were happening. So there were clashes between anti anti-racist, anti-Confederate groups of people in Virginia and South Carolina and around. around the South and the Southeast, and also in the North, where violence had erupted already. So it was fairly easy for somebody to, through social media, to do marketing. And this fellow was named Jason Kessler. He started something called, it was going to be a march. They thought that would be all the different factions of the various history deniers and, disaffected, mostly young men and some young women, supposedly, from the pictures. But it was a very odd event that all of a sudden had the national spotlight on it. And looking back on it, Jason Kessler just came out of nowhere. And a lot of these people, they had been sort of attracting attention. Vice, the Vice crew came out and, oh, look at horrible, these horrible racists. They're gonna, try to take over, and they praised Donald Trump. This all started too with, if you remember, Richard Spencer, this white supremacist, supposedly guy from Dallas, Texas. He went to St. Mark's, and then I forget where he went, like University of Texas or something. And all of a sudden, he becomes like the poster boy or the leader of white supremacy. And all of a sudden, it's like, who is this guy? He becomes the face of the alt right, right? And right around like the inauguration, when the inauguration weekend and season happened, Richard Spencer was in a hotel room in Washington D.C., like a meeting room somewhere, and there were probably about 50 people there, and this was like big news. It's like, okay, well, Trump's going to be inaugurated, and then all of a sudden, people were doing the Heil Hitler salute to Trump, hail Trump, and oh my God, so there was a relentless push to rope in and associate the new president with white supremacy, when he had never ever uttered a single word about white people being superior, not once. Problem was, what they do is they think if you don't vociferously denounce everything in the country, especially those who praise you, and you don't keep doing it, that then you are in agreement with them. What if we held all politicians to this standard? That would be crazy. So piercing the veil of illusion involves thinking about, is this a real, is this type of media outrage, is this authentic? Is this what you would expect, knowing our culture, knowing our media and everything? Or is this over the top, and why? Why? So this alternative thinking is very important. Thinking for yourself, thinking independently in spite of everything. It's like it can be tough sometimes, especially if you're used to watching the news. You watch the morning shows and you read the New York Times, and that drives the day. Well, it took me a few years to go back into the New York Times archives and realize that every single kind of conflict around the world that they wrote about, they were always on the wrong side. They would praise somebody who conducted a coup because basically the CIA was endorsing them. And the New York Times, it's not like they're saying, oh, we are CIA, but they always quote anonymous, current and or former intelligence officials, and you see that the intelligence officials are basically driving the news cycle. So I'm not saying anything new, but you do have to pierce the veil, and then you also have to stay strong, because even this morning, they're not talking about the Twitter files on the mainstream media channels. Guess what they talked about? Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. You know what he talked about? He was still talking about the Kanye West dinner from more than a week ago. That was the weekend before, Chuck, or it was like 2 weeks ago. Still talking about that, trying to associate President Trump with white supremacy and anti-Semitism, even though We know that Trump was trying to help Kanye West. How do we know this? Because he said so. And basically, as far as I'm concerned, the president, current or former president, can have dinner with whoever the hell he wants to have dinner with. That's what free speech is. And guilt by association, yeah, I mean, if somebody continues to do it, to do like hang out with people even after it's really obvious that the person is, is espousing views that are antithetical to our way of life, such as, oh, Hitler was good, or, there's like this one website, and one of the guys involved in Unite the Right, I think his name is Andrew Anglin. He's still going, and he got back, he was allowed back on Twitter, and it's like, well, let's give some sunshine to these bad ideas. Nobody said that you can't discuss these things. If you just say, ooh, don't even mention it, then our young people are going to grow up not understanding what is a real threat and what is not, as far as to our way of life, to our system that has been put in place of the Bill of Rights. And so, anyway, I am talking about this. I'm talking about the Twitter files. I'm talking about real wrongdoing and corruption that's been covered up. And yet, the mainstream media is still talking about their favorite subject, which is to associate the president, the 45th president, who can be abrasive, but doesn't bother me at all, but has the best ideas we've seen in many, many generations. They can just go after him with no substance at all, right? It's like any moment he's gonna be arrested for what? For allowing his tax preparer to send his granddaughter to some school because I don't know. It was some sort of thing, and it's like every single business person in America makes their assets look small when they're filing taxes and makes their um, assets look big when they're getting loans. So, justice? No. Um, Banana Republic justice. So, I guess that's what I'm leaving you with today. Please, we need to pierce the veil of illusion. It's not as hard as you think because thank goodness the internet does last. Like things get archived. Although I will say, I heard somebody talking about the Wayback Internet Machine, the Internet Archive. Now, the Internet Archive has been bought by one of the big companies now, and I noticed I was not able to get some search results that I was looking for as I had been able to in the past. So just letting you know, they're trying to take down the ability to look up tweets that have been deleted, and they're trying to limit it now. So that's concerning to me, very concerning actually. So the Internet Archive is now owned and compromised by, I think it might be affiliated with Wikipedia. I need to look that up, but I'll put it in the description box below because that is very concerning. So anyway, thanks for supporting my channel and my work across multiple platforms. Please hit that subscribe button and smash the like button and hit the bell for notifications because, um, I like to see more people saying what I'm saying. They are doing that, but as an award-winning journalist, I need to lend my voice. The time is very crucial now. We are basically entering a time period where, especially in California, it's a uniparty, and it's not a uniparty in the normal way you would think. It is um, totally a black. It's the opposite of transparent. So it's not transparent here in California, and when I say it, I mean our elections, our government, our media. Um, it is it's scary actually to think about what happened in the pandemic and then the people wanted to change things. We call Governor Newsom and they used the very tactics that they are now condemning. The very tactics they're condemning now which would be to analyze the signatures, like in Arizona for voting. They kicked out a bunch of signatures for the recall of Gavin Newsom. They kicked out a bunch of votes. So the system is used. The system is used to the advantage of one point of view, and that is the establishment. And the media is designed to completely ignore the way the system is used for the establishment. If that doesn't concern people, then I don't know what will. I think that we really are under a kind of somnambulance that is being. It's part of our programming where we just can't imagine something being crucial enough for us to need to fight, and that is because our media is managed and curated. So I guess I could say more, but that's about all I gotta say right now on YouTube. And thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. And again, I really hope that you will subscribe to the channel so that I can continue to bring more truth, hidden truth to you. Alrighty. Take care. Have a great Monday. Bye-bye.